Welcome to another thought-provoking and insightful video. Today we're going to dive deep into a topic that touches all of us. 4 toxic habits that can make people lose respect for you. These are not just small quirks or little habits that everyone has. These are behaviors that can really undermine your reputation and harm your relationships. It's something I've personally struggled with, and I think it's crucial that we bring awareness to it. Now, you might be thinking, everyone has bad habits, right? What's the big deal? And yes, you're absolutely right. We all have our own little imperfections, but the habits we're talking about today are especially harmful because they target the very foundation of how we interact with others. These habits can cause people to see you in a completely different light and not in a good way. Whether it's a friendship, a family bond, or a professional relationship, these behaviors can destroy trust and make people lose respect for you faster than you realize. I'm going to be completely honest here. Some of what I'll be sharing comes from my own personal experiences. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and trust me, I've had my own wake-up calls. But these moments of failure have been some of the biggest lessons of my life. It's not easy to admit your faults, but I believe that by sharing these stories, we can all learn something together. I want this video to be a safe space where we can reflect on our behaviors and make the necessary changes to become better versions of ourselves. In this video, we're not just going to talk about the problem. We're also going to dig deep into Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that offers some of the most powerful and timeless advice for how to live a virtuous and fulfilling life. The Stoics taught that we should always strive for inner peace, integrity, and resilience, no matter what life throws our way. Stoicism is about more than just surviving tough times with a stiff upper lip. It's about thriving by cultivating virtues that build respect and trust with those around us. And today we'll be applying those Stoic principles to identify these toxic habits. More importantly, how to get rid of them. Before we get into the specifics, grab a cup of coffee or tea, find a comfortable spot, and really focus on the insights we're about to explore. Because this is more than just a list of bad habits. This is about changing how you show up in the world. It's about improving your relationships, whether at work, with friends, or with your family. By the end of this video, I hope you'll not only recognize these behaviors, but also feel empowered to replace them with healthier, more respectful ways of interacting with others. As we go through each habit, I want you to reflect on your own life. We all have moments where we've messed up or acted in ways we aren't proud of. But the beautiful thing is, it's never too late to make a change. If we can become aware of these habits, we can start working on them right away. We can take the steps to repair our relationships, earn back respect, and build a more dignified life. And let me tell you, Stoicism is such a powerful tool in helping us stay grounded. It teaches us to control what we can control and let go of what we can't. It helps us focus on living a life of integrity and virtue, qualities that naturally draw respect from others. Whether you're struggling with anger, impatience, arrogance, or anything else, Stoicism can help you take a step back, reflect, and make better choices. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's explore these 4 toxic habits one by one and learn how to recognize them in ourselves. Let's work on overcoming them, not just for the sake of others, but for our own personal growth and peace of mind. And remember, if you haven't watched the full video yet, make sure you do. These insights can truly change your life, and if you miss out, you might regret not taking this opportunity to reflect and grow. The lessons we'll be discussing could be the key to improving not only your relationships, but also your self-respect and how others see you. Alright, let's get started. This is going to be an eye-opening journey, and by the end of it, I hope we all walk away feeling more empowered to live a life full of dignity, respect, and growth. Habit number 1. Complaining. Complaining is one of those habits that can be more harmful than we realize. It's not only annoying, but can also be destructive to relationships and your own well-being. Sure, it's normal to vent sometimes, but when you're constantly complaining, it can make you a negative presence that others start to avoid. Complaining all the time drains your energy and the energy of those around you, leading to lost respect and damaged relationships. I used to be a chronic complainer. I thought it was a way to connect with others, to find common ground by sharing our frustrations. But over time, I realized how destructive this habit really was. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I had a job that really frustrated me. The workload was heavy, the management was a mess, and I felt unappreciated. Instead of trying to find ways to improve the situation, I would complain constantly to my coworkers, my friends, even my family. At first, people would listen sympathetically. They'd nod and agree, maybe even share their own complaints to make me feel better. But as time went on, I noticed something. People started avoiding me. Conversations got shorter, and I wasn't invited to hang out with my colleagues after work as much. The wake-up call came when a close friend told me, "I love you, but you're becoming really negative. It's exhausting to be around you." That hit me hard. I didn't realize that my constant complaining was draining the people around me. The Stoics teach us to focus on what we can control and to accept what we can't. Complaining keeps you stuck in a cycle of negativity. Instead of focusing on solutions, you stay fixated on the problems. This not only affects your own mindset, but also how others see you. It's a sign that you're more focused on the negative than the positive, which isn't a quality people admire. Another experience that really opened my eyes happened during a group project in college. One of my teammates, let's call him Mike, was always complaining. Every meeting, he'd go on about how unfair the workload was, how the professor didn't know what they were doing, and how pointless the whole project felt. His constant negativity dragged the whole team down. No one was motivated, and we all just wanted to get the project over with. Seeing how Mike's attitude affected the group made me realize how my own complaining might have been affecting others in similar ways. That's when I knew I had to change. Instead of complaining about my job, I started practicing gratitude and focusing on finding solutions. If I felt undervalued, I asked for feedback on how I could improve and eventually made a case for a raise. If management was disorganized, I took steps to organize the things within my control. It wasn't easy and it didn't happen overnight, but the change in my attitude made a big difference. People started noticing the shift, my relationships improved, and I began earning back the respect I had lost. Complaining might feel like a way to get things off your chest, but it often does more harm than good. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, focus on what you can do to make things better. Practicing gratitude and seeking solutions is not only better for your mental health, but it also makes you someone people want to be around. By making this shift, I became someone people wanted to work with, not someone they avoided. Habit number 2, gossiping. Let's get real about gossiping. It's one of those habits that most people indulge in, but hardly anyone is willing to admit. Honestly, I used to be a huge gossip. It took a lot of painful experiences for me to realize just how harmful it really was. Back when I was in college, gossiping almost felt like a sport. My friends and I would sit around for hours talking about every little detail of other people's lives. At first, it seemed harmless, even fun. It made us feel close, like we were in on some exclusive secrets. But looking back, I now see just how toxic it was. I want to share a story that I'm not exactly proud of. There was this girl in our group, let's call her Emily. She was a little different, quiet, quirky, and didn't always fit in with everyone else. One day, I found out that she had a crush on a guy who, let's just say, didn't seem like someone she would have a chance with. Instead of keeping that information to myself, I shared it with my friends. We laughed about it, and the story spread around our group like wildfire. Not long after, Emily found out what we had been saying. I will never forget the look on her face when she realized that her personal feelings had become the subject of a joke. She stopped hanging out with us and eventually left the group altogether. At the time, I brushed it off, pretending it wasn't a big deal, but deep down, I knew I had crossed a line. The teachings of Stoicism come to mind here. Philosophers like Epictetus tell us to focus on our own behavior and character instead of meddling in the lives of others. When you gossip, you're not only wasting time, but you're also destroying trust. Epictetus wisely said, "Keep silence for the most part, and speak only when you must, and then briefly." Gossiping erodes trust. When you engage in gossip, people around you start to wonder what you might say about them behind their backs. It creates a toxic environment of suspicion and betrayal. I learned this lesson the hard way. Let me tell you about another incident that hit even harder. It happened at my first job. There was this coworker, let's call him John. John was a very diligent worker, but he kept to himself a lot. One day, I heard through the grapevine that John had a serious health problem. Instead of respecting his privacy, I casually mentioned it to a few other colleagues, thinking it would make for an interesting conversation. Word got back to John, of course. He confronted me, not angrily, but with deep disappointment in his eyes. He told me that he had trusted me with that information, believing that I would be discreet. From that day forward, our working relationship was never the same. I had lost his respect and trust, and it was entirely my fault. That experience taught me a critical lesson. Respect people's privacy. Everyone is dealing with their own struggles and vulnerabilities. By turning someone's personal life into a topic of gossip, you're not only disrespecting them, but you're also showing a lack of integrity in yourself. The Stoics strongly believed in having positive and constructive conversations. Instead of gossiping, they encouraged us to focus on conversations that build people up, rather than tear them down. And remember, if someone is willing to gossip to you, they're just as likely to gossip about you behind your back. If you want to keep your relationships healthy, it's important to avoid gossip. It might feel entertaining in the moment, but the damage it causes is far-reaching. Replacing gossip with meaningful, respectful dialogue is a much better way to connect with others and build lasting, trusting relationships. Habit number 3, being unreliable. Let's talk about being unreliable. This is a habit that many people struggle with, and it's one that can seriously damage your relationships and make others lose respect for you. Reliability is the foundation of trust. Whether in personal friendships or professional settings, people need to know that they can count on you. If they can't, it won't be long before they stop respecting you altogether. I've got a personal story that really opened my eyes to how damaging this habit can be. In my early 20s, I had a bit of a reputation among my friends as the flaky one. I'd often make plans and then cancel at the last minute, or worse, just not show up at all. At the time, I thought it wasn't a big deal. Life is busy, right? But there was one particular incident that made me realize how wrong I was. A close friend of mine, let's call her Sarah, was throwing a big birthday party. She had spent weeks planning, organizing every little detail. I promised her I'd be there, but on the day of the party, I got caught up with something else and decided not to go. The worst part? I didn't even bother to let her know until hours after the party had already started. When I finally called, I could hear the disappointment in her voice. She didn't say much, but I knew I had let her down. After that, our friendship was never the same. She stopped inviting me to events, and over time, we drifted apart. Being unreliable sends a clear message. It tells people that your word doesn't mean much. If you say you're going to do something, you have to follow through. If you promise to be somewhere, show up. It's about more than just keeping plans. It's about respecting other people's time and effort. By constantly canceling or flaking, you show that their time is less important than yours, and that's a sure way to lose respect. Another story that taught me the value of reliability happened early in my career. I had developed a habit of overcommitting and under-delivering. I'd agree to take on projects at work and then miss deadlines, sometimes without even letting anyone know. I thought my charm and excuses would make up for it, but my boss saw right through that. During one performance review, she didn't hold back. She told me, "Your work is good when you actually do it, but your lack of reliability is a problem. People don't know if they can count on you." That was a tough pill to swallow, but it was a wake-up call I needed. Being reliable is not just about showing up, it's about consistency and integrity. Every time you make a commitment, you're putting your reputation on the line. When you fail to follow through, even once, you start to chip away at the trust others have in you. Over time, that can damage your relationships both personally and professionally. So how do you fix this? First, be honest with yourself about what you can and can't do. Don't make promises you can't keep. It's better to say no up front than to say yes, and then let someone down later. If you do commit to something, follow through. If something comes up and you genuinely can't keep your promise, communicate early and explain the situation. Let people know what's going on, instead of leaving them in the dark. This shows that you respect their time as much as your own. By being reliable, you earn the trust and respect of the people around you. It's a simple but incredibly powerful way to strengthen your relationships and build a solid reputation. Remember, people don't just respect talent or charm, they respect reliability and consistency. Being someone others can count on is one of the best ways to earn lasting respect. Habit 4. Interrupting others. This is one of those habits that many people don't even realize they're doing. But let's be honest, constantly interrupting others is a big sign of disrespect. It sends the message, what I have to say is more important than what you're saying. This habit not only frustrates people, but also makes them feel like their thoughts and feelings don't matter. It's one of those small things that can leave a big negative impact on your relationships. I used to be a chronic interrupter. I thought interrupting showed that I was engaged, enthusiastic, and even intelligent. But in reality, it only showed that I wasn't being respectful or patient. Here's a personal story that really drove this point home for me. At one of my first jobs, I worked on a team that had weekly brainstorming sessions. I was eager to make a good impression, so I would constantly jump in with my ideas, even cutting people off mid-sentence. I thought I was being proactive and contributing, but my coworkers saw things differently. One day, during a particularly intense meeting, my manager suddenly stopped the discussion and addressed me directly. "You need to let people finish their thoughts," she said bluntly. "You're not really listening. You're just waiting for your turn to speak." I was embarrassed, to say the least, but it didn't stop there. After the meeting, one of my colleagues pulled me aside and said, "Do you even realize how dismissive you come across? It's like you think your ideas are the only ones that matter." That hit me hard. I never saw myself as dismissive or disrespectful, but that's exactly how others were perceiving me. This experience opened my eyes to the fact that interrupting isn't just rude, it shows a lack of self-control and consideration for others. The Stoics really valued listening and understanding over speaking. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, advised people to be patient and thoughtful in their conversations. And looking back, I can see that I wasn't being either of those things. Another incident that really sticks with me happened one night when I was out with friends. We were all sitting around at a bar, and one of my friends started sharing a deeply personal story about his struggles with anxiety. Halfway through his story, I interrupted him to share my own experience, thinking it would make him feel like I understood him. But instead, he looked at me and said, "Can I finish?" The mood shifted instantly. What I thought was empathy actually came across as hijacking his moment, turning the conversation toward myself instead of letting him finish sharing what was on his heart. That night, I realized something really important. Listening isn't just about hearing words. It's about being fully present and allowing someone to express themselves without interruption. When I interrupted, I wasn't helping. I was making the conversation about me. I was undermining their chance to express themselves fully, and that's something no one appreciates. If you struggle with interrupting others, like I used to, here's a simple way to fix it. Practice active listening. When someone is speaking, don't just wait for your turn to talk. Really listen to what they're saying. Let them finish their thoughts completely before you respond. It might sound simple, but it's a powerful way to show respect and build stronger, more meaningful connections with the people around you. Interrupting others sends the signal that you think your words and thoughts are more important than theirs. It's a sign of disrespect, even if that's not your intention. By practicing active listening, you're showing that you value the other person's contributions. You're creating an environment of mutual respect where everyone's voice is heard. The next time you find yourself in a conversation, challenge yourself to really listen. Hold back from jumping in too soon. You might be surprised by how much more you learn and how much more respect you earn in the process. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Let's all work towards living better, more respectful lives. Until next time, stay strong and stay stoic.